my name is Erminio Pinque. I'm the artistic director of the Big Nazo Lab. We're based in Providence, Rhode Island in the U.S. And basically, it's a creature shop that is also a performance group. So we're not just serving clients who are performers and filmmakers, but we are also the people who wear the outfits and also create our own shows. And a lot of our clients, the income kind of comes in from being commissioned to make props and creature costumes for theater and small independent films. But we also are heavily involved in education. I'm a professor at the Rhode Island School of Design, where I teach creature creation, and a number of my students work in the industry, Hollywood and different kinds of performance and creature making outlets. Well, it really varies, of course, from individual to individual. Some people come in with a kind of a real clear idea, which is usually the most difficult situation to work with, because sometimes the idea totally works in 2D. It's like sort of an illustration point of view, or it could be a reference material that doesn't translate easily into 3D. And other times, people have a vague sense of character. They want it to be frightening, but not too frightening. Or, sort of general ideas about it, seeming like it's aquatic, but maybe it also can fly. All these, we've heard everything, And also there's been plenty of times where I've talked people out of even using us to even make something, because I hear their project and I'm like, I don't know if it's a creature you want here. You might just want a person who's, slightly disfigured, or it sounds like your story is not really about a mythical being. But so we've had every kind of situation. We've sometimes talked people out of even using us because of that, because we really believe that the work that we do, we really want it to fit the story, and especially if we're going to be involved in manipulating it, we really want to make sure that it doesn't stand out as a sore point, like as the problem in the film or in the theater piece. So if it's used really well, it sort of helps. It helps us look good too, because we're contributing to the story. But I think that we're often asked to sort of present ideas. We're given directions, but we do a lot of research, and most often, we just kind of come up with many more options than the organization or the client that's requesting the creature would usually think about, because we immediately ask about the function. I really believe that you have to have sometimes function before form, and if it's going to be something that's utilized in a scenic way in some way, and a person has to operate it, I'm asking all the other questions, like how long is the shot, or how long is the scene? What does the person in the suit have to do? Do they have to have use of their fingers? Do they have to open a door? Or do they have to do something that's delicate like that? Because that's going to influence the design. So you get into a situation where you have to talk someone out of having giant paws if their character is supposed to, stitch clothing together or something. And so you'd think that would be obvious, but most people, will zoom out to the big idea and kind of forget all the little tasks that character has to perform. And that's why sometimes on set you have these problems where there's visibility issues, or actors are, it's too hot in the costume because it hasn't been created with the adequate ventilation. So that's the advantage that myself and my fabrication team have, is that because we picture ourselves wearing these things, we think about the person inside of it, and because we care about that, it helps the whole production. It really helps not feeling like you need the job. Just knowing that what's going to be more important to me is that the project have integrity. It begins with that design meeting, that the person you're working with can respect that you're going to tell them exactly what you professionally believe is the danger zone, and and being open about, hey, I haven't done this before, so I'm going to need to go back and try some stuff, and we'll meet in a week and I'll show you what we made or something. I think that level of honesty is the first important thing, is to kind of announce limitations, talk about the gray zones, but then also really stand your ground about certain ethical, aesthetic things. If I really feel like I don't want to be associated with something that is pandering and too cute and cross-eyed or whatever, too fuzzy, I might just say, like, you're talking to me, you know my work. If you've seen my work and you like it, then I have to ask honestly, why would you ask me to make a giant teddy bear? Because you know that our characters eat teddy bears. So what are you doing here? And and we'll say we know people who can make really soft, fuzzy mascots with cute, four-fingered gloves and stuff. So would you like their number? And I think that if you're that candid, sometimes you can get someone to just rethink what they're thinking and go like, well, I didn't actually need it to be, I guess, fuzzy at all, as long as it's lovable, and then we can talk about, well, something can be lovable and be covered with warts and veins, and then we start to produce those sketches and get really enthusiastic about our philosophy that sometimes the most endearing characters are the ones that have these visible flaws that you empathize with and that actually reflect in the insecurities of the viewer, who goes, well, I'm a little embarrassed about maybe the size of my nose, or I have this little blemish on my neck. And so if you can talk a client into seeing that that's a positive, they might walk out of the meeting going like, this is awesome, I feel much better about what we're going to do. And it's because they're talking to a creature designer that's not just there shaking their head yes, because they're thinking, I don't want to say or do anything to lose my chances of being the person to get this job, And so that freedom is kind of, maybe in our part, it's sort of just being true to ourselves and not being fearful of loss, but just thinking about what's to be gained if we're really going to do a great project together. So I think that's the standpoint. That's where my negotiation, that kind of talking. Of course, you have to be delicate. And you don't want to, trash an idea. But there's ways to kind of find out what someone intended, what their intention is, and to kind of use expertise to kind of guide them to a better solution. And of course, you have to. If they're not coming along the ride with you, then it's not happening. But if they want to see your point of view, it's awesome, because then you have this really great collaboration, and they take more ownership of the idea because they feel like they're open to it and they're having input still. I think that happens because sometimes there's maybe just too much money, too much time to kind of overwork an idea, or to look at established icons, things that have in their day were new, were fresh, or terrified or intrigued audiences, and then cloning those things and morphing them. I mean, if you were to do that, if you were to breed an animal in that way, you would kind of disfigure the creature, by inbreeding. And so I think the same thing happens with ideas. If you feel like reptile features plus sort of bug antennae with the mandibles of this successful screen horror monster movie character, if you keep throwing those things into a stew, you're still getting those parts, but they're just getting more misshapen. And I know that's ironic because a monster being misshapen sounds great, but an idea can be misshapen, an idea can kind of become monstrous, and I don't think that's what the intention is. I think that there's a lot of, I'm not going to say that it's the fabrication shop or even the designer. It could be coming from an executive place, it could be coming from the writing, who knows. But on some level, people have started to re-ingest, the research materials. They're not going back to nature or looking at the original life forms on the planet that are so spectacular and so diverse, and seeking new animal forms to morph, along with the ideas. I think it's more like we're looking at all the movies that have been done and looking at all those adaptations and those interpretations. So it'd be like wanting to paint a new picture and looking at your favorite painters. Whatever you're doing, you're still taking somebody's ideas and then remaking art for artists. I often bring up with my own students or people that I'm training or who are working with me the importance of just kind of forgetting what you know. Sometimes when you start creating or inventing something, you just have to let the materials or other inspirations, give it a chance, to do something. It might be scary at first because it's uncharted territory, but it's like mad cow disease. If you start to, eat of your own kind and the inspiration is being recycled, some sort of terrible thing starts to happen, and you start to spit out the same blobby mess, and a lot of those creatures that I think that don't really work in films are usually, they just seem like you just saw this in another movie, but someone made it, it jumps higher and it moves quicker, or it just has jerkier camera movements or something.